Hello, welcome to our brand new unnamed show. My name is Jayanne, and I'm here with my cousin Jane, and we are intuitives. And we're going to start this series off talking today about the solstice and what all that means to us. So if you end up enjoying this, then go ahead and give us a like and connect with us because we respond to the comments and very exciting. So, hi Jane.
Yeah.
Um, so we wanted to talk, you wanted to talk a lot about the solstice because you feel like there's a lot happening in the solstice this year. Can you tell me more about that?
Um, Sort of. I don't really know the specifics. It's just the date keeps coming up in different ways that I receive messages as an important and possibly pinnacle date for myself, but I think also for the planet at this very interesting time. Um, I mean, we all know the solstice is the shortest day of the year. So it's the darkest day, but as such, it ends the period of darkness since the summer solstice and celebrates the return of the sun and the period of light beginning. Every day after that gets longer and more sunlight. And obviously, there's energy involved, right? When we talk about the dark and the light and the sun. So I'm not sure what to expect, but I'm feeling like it's positive.
Awesome. Yeah. Um, yeah, so the meaning of the actual numbers, I think, have some significance, right?
12/21, and also, of course, this is 21 on the
Right.
short here, which is interesting.
What do the numbers one and two mean in Angel? Do you remember
I am
12?
so bad at remembering. I have to look them up every single time.
I know, it's crazy.
It is because I've done it a million times. But I think also the number three is significant, as in if you break it down with numerology, 1 + 2 is 3, 2 + 1 is 3,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
would also make it three threes if we're ignoring the 20 part of the year.
That's right. I looked this up. I looked this up because I kept saying 1212 and it's a spiritual awakening process. The 1 2 2 1 is all about like going deep into the spirituality and coming out and that's all happening in the sign of well the transition to the sign of
Capricorn.
Capricorn. Yeah, I always forget those two because they're on the opposite end of the year that I was born and so I go they don't really matter.
Have significant Sagittarius and Capricorn in my life, so I can't forget. But sometimes.
Mhm, mhm. So I love that what you said earlier before we started recording about the increasing light, just starting at that date rather than focusing in on the cold, dark winter. It's remember that every day is now longer, which is really great.
Right, because I mean, here I'm in Pennsylvania, right? In the northern hemisphere, northeast part of the United States. January and February are the darkest, coldest, most generally miserable months of the year. So to have a different perspective coming after the solstice, that it's actually becoming lighter through that time is pretty awesome, I think.
Hmm. So, what do you feel like is happening right now in the world energetically, and what do you feel like is going on to
Like,
create that shift?
I feel like, I mean, obviously, we've been in a ginormous shift since the beginning of 2020, right? But right now, it's still feeling sort of chaotic in the energy to me. But as we all know, any change and all change is positive and good does not come with preceding chaos in the
Hmm.
interim, right? So I feel like I hope, obviously, but I think I've been given this date over and over and time of the solstice as maybe an endpoint to the chaos to where we actually do transition into a lighter energy.
Yeah.
And our
Yeah.
ascension, obviously, our ongoing process into the transition from the 3D into the 5D Earth, right?
And that's what all of this is about, right? Like this isn't just, oh, chaos for the sake of chaos. It's chaos for the sake of change, for the sake of transformation, for the sake of elevation, for the sake of ascension, right? It's not just about we're going to just I'm just gonna mess you up kind of thing. It's not like the divine is like, oh hey, this will be fun. Just a mixing bowl right here.
A light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, which interesting, it keeps coming back to light. But I do think touching on the very recent 11/11 portal is also maybe important, because for me, at least, when we talked about this, you can share your experience, which is a little different than mine. I was very much exhausted, and I've sort of been exhausted since, but it was exhaustion is normal with ascension, right? And I had a personal ascension experience. So I think that was maybe the last heavy sort of energy day, even though obviously ascension brings you to lightness. It is through the darkness. We cannot have the light without the dark, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we can't have the light. I think that's one of the things that people lose sight of. You can't see without darkness. Like obviously you can't see without light, but if everything were light, you'd have no perception of depth. We'd have no colors either. Because you wouldn't be able to see past this just forever light. And that's why one of the reasons I'm grateful to live in the Northern Hemisphere is that there are these seasons that allow me to recognize and go through these different phases of processing. And in the fall, I'm very contemplative. In the fall and into the winter, I'm very more like internal focused, and into the more, like witchy stuff and a lot more of those tangible things that we lose sight of when there's just like all this light blasting at us, and there's just a constant need to do. So that was part of it. And then yeah, so but my 11/11 portal was kind of awesome because they had this I had the day off of my full-time job, and I had this great conversation with this lady who's like, yeah, this is how I can help with your technology and all this stuff. And at 11:11 in the morning, at 11 the day 11/11, I looked at the clock and I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. So then craziest thing happened to me last night. So I went out to dinner, just me and the baby, and we were just whatever, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the night, the waitress comes by and goes, "Two angels paid for your dinner." It's like, those are her exact words. Two angels paid for your dinner, not like two really nice people.
I mean,
So
I'm a server, and I've had that happen, and I've never said that. That's
it's
awesome.
just the wildest thing to just have that exact phrasing on 11/12, right? Or 13. That was 13. It was yesterday. So the meanings of this whole time of year, right, as we're descending into the darkest day, is the time for all of those practices. And then it culminates right on the solstice, which traditionally is the celebration of Yule, right?
And it was interesting you brought up the witchy stuff, which you might know more about than I do, but I do know that the solstice or the Yule is one of the Sabbaths, right, of Wicca. And also the colors. So the solstice is about the sun. The Yule is a little bit different, but I do dabble in crystals, and it's interesting to me because in my research, clear quartz and citrine kept coming up, which is obvious kind of why, I think. I mean, clear quartz is always powerful, but apparently it's it's to be utilized extra on that day. And I don't know if that's true for any of the other Wiccan holidays. The citrine brings extra power from and through the sun. But those are the two that I bought when I went on my vacation at the end of September, which was, as you know, my first vacation without the kids in my mom life. I still have
Yay.
larger citrine and clear quartz that I just purchased. And I only buy things as I'm led to, even if I don't know why. Intuitive purchasing. So those are two things that I guess anybody can find, utilize, keep around you, wear, put on your altar, whatever you do during this time. Also, in the number of 3, and I already was aware of this, but most energetic days or dates, there's really like a 3-day window of the energy. So you can really celebrate anytime or the whole time between the 20th and the 23rd. Which obviously the 21st is the shortest day, but you can, do your meditations, whatever, tap into the energy for that period of time.
Yeah, and that's common around the full and new moons too. The day before and after are good for that. Citrine, interestingly enough, is the most common stone for abundance, right?
That's why I thought I was buying it. Like, bring me the abundance.
Yes, please.
I also, that's what this date first showed up for me, is I was sort of praying for abundance and asking, as I'm sure I'm not alone in doing, but we often don't get answers about time, because I am getting impatient in my lesson of patience that has been ongoing for a very long time. I've been waiting for this abundance that is supposed to arrive in my life. As a Leo, especially, like, it's been being called for a long time. And if any of you have any Leo in your chart, you would know Leo is also the one and only sun sign. So I think that's interesting that I was told it would be the solstice.
When there's the least sun.
And there's a little sun, but the sun returns, right?
I have like no Leo in my chart, but I am surrounded by Leos.
Well, it's gonna affect you too.
Yes, is what affects the people around us will affect us. So you're thinking this is something of a new beginning, is what you're feeling into?
Well, yes, and I think it's just, I know it's historically a new beginning. Many traditions have put the new year with the solstice. Even, the Christian calendar that we apply, technically, the first day of the year is supposed to be the same day as Jesus's birth is celebrated, which, we're not going to get into that, but wasn't actually the 25th, but they put it there because of all the other pagan traditions that most of the world already was celebrating in order to have an easier transition into their, that belief system. But in any case, all around, historically, religiously, this time of year has celebrated the new year, new beginnings. And as you know, I was raised a Buddhist, and we don't really have holidays per se, but my mom always made a huge deal about the new year because that's when we would have a new beginning and create new goals.
I love it. What are some practices that you're doing for the solstice and that other people maybe want to follow?
Well, a lot of them do go hand in hand with what people might already do for Christmas, since most of those come from pagan traditions, such as
right? You put a tree in your house.
In our house, it's super fun, decorate with all kinds of things, especially food. It was the original Yule tradition. So that cranberry popcorn string. But I think that also is supposed to be like a bringer of abundance. Somehow time evergreen, sense of evergreen. Holly, which is also highly protective. Mistletoe, which you told me an interesting tidbit about. If you'd like to share.
Yeah, mistletoe is people who do homeopath, like it's poisonous plant, right? Super poisonous, don't eat it. But people who practice homeopathy use the homeopathic preparation of it, which if you know anything about homeopathic preparations, they take the plant and then they shake it in the water for like 1,000 percussions. And then they take a little bit of that and they put it in more water and then they shake that for like 1,000 percussions. So at the end of all of the, like if you see a 6X or a 6C, that's 6 times actually diluted, but it's more, it's stronger energetically because what you're doing is just imbuing the energetic structure of that molecule onto the water. And then it's going to be more and more of those water molecules are going to be like that as you get stronger. Anyways, so the homeopathic preparation literally has no mistletoe in it, but they use that to treat cancer because of the way that it looks like the mistletoe grows into a tree and sort of takes from its whole it looks like a cancer on the tree, but it's mistletoe. And the way that homeopathy is practiced is you go look in nature for something that looks like what you have, and then you make a homeopathic preparation of it, and it typically works out that way. Just like people use quinine to work with malaria, right? Malaria, quinine's toxic.
Again,
And
totally
if you're
just
not sick, it gives you those same symptoms of malaria. It's just the wildest thing. Anyways, so people use mistletoe to help people with cancer. And yeah, and holly is really good for protection. And you're right, the evergreen, like literally people who are in business, they talk about having an evergreen offer, right? So it's always available for somebody to buy. So that's like a direct language use of that plant, right? Um, yeah, I love it.
also oranges because
Mm,
of their correlation with the sun, of course. Back to that.
mhm.
I mean, you could just eat them or have scents around. Candles are good, incense, candles and incense also because of the fire element, which again with the sun. Um, cinnamon,
Yeah.
cloves, type of like warm spice. I
Mulled
was
wine, like anything you'd put in a mulled wine.
right, yeah. Also,
So,
of course, I mean, we can look to some religions for certain truth. So frankincense and myrrh were
mm,
huge at that time.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, a lot of like really earthy types
yeah,
of plants, just
and I
really in the woods kind of feeling, right?
right.
Yeah,
Bring it
love
back
it.
to the but yeah, so those are some things that you can do, bring into the home, not look like too much of a weird witchy person if you care. um, and celebrate and take advantage of the energy.
Mhm. I love your idea for what you could use for ornaments on your tree.
Oh yeah, so I found that apparently some people do this, and I'm going to adapt it is to write down your wishes for the upcoming year and hang them on your tree. So the creative and cute way that I had an idea from another YouTuber, I would say their name, but I don't remember, it was random, um, is to just do it on like a little piece of paper and roll it like a scroll and tie it with a ribbon and then hang it on your tree like an ornament. And if you don't want people to ask your questions, then put it on the back of the tree. Just as effective.
This is effect. I love it. Maybe put some essential oils on it or something too.
Yeah, yeah. But the tying into the evergreen is supposed to also, of course, help
Mm.
bring the manifestation of your desire into fruition.
Yeah, the importance of knots when you tie things in a like ceremonial sense. It's a very different thing than just like hanging it. Yeah, I like
And
how
this,
you said that.
like the solstice with the Yule, is also why they used to, I mean, against all caution, put burning candles on their
Yeah.
trees. Or some people still do that, but I'm not recommending it.
Yeah.
Maybe have some candles around in
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah. Have you ever seen there's like a wreath, it's an Advent wreath, right? And they put the candles in and it's supposed to, counting down, I think to the solstice, but Christian tradition is this is Jesus, we're counting down to Jesus' birthday. But because it's all really the same time frame, like you said, like you
Yeah.
can celebrate the solstice all for
And
the
I
end of December.
think because if you think of like the Christmas season, like so it's like at least the 3 weeks from like Thanksgiving leading up to Christmas and or the solstice and Christmas, right? So really in reality, that's the darkest time of the year. But we've created this like societal tradition that brings in the highest vibration of energy in men
Mm,
to get ourselves through that time of year. And like that's kind of brilliant and beautiful. I was
mm,
thinking about it.
I love that. Yeah, when I was in college and I was taking some world history class or whatever, and we're talking about ancient people and they always use the teacher was like, "Oh yeah, because they didn't have science, they would, do all these traditions to sort of like pray to the sun and make this hope the sun's coming back." But it sounds like it feels like more of what you said is bringing in the light and finding the light in the darkest hours. And I like that way better than like, oh, those people back then were just dumb and they didn't know
Well,
what we know.
I think that science does it a lot. I mean, I have respect for science, but I feel like they bring ego a lot into the sciences when it's like, really, the more we go on, the more it's become obvious, at least to me, and maybe those of us who are like light workers or whatever, that science is now just proving what ancient wisdom already knew. You
Yeah.
know, like I think that they were like, oh, please, sun, come back. I think they're like, we know the sun is going to come back now. So we're celebrating it. Just because we don't have telescopes and all kinds of things to prove it doesn't mean they didn't know, just like with the hand washing as
Yeah.
tradition, where they knew about germs and those types of
Yeah, the early 1900s or late 1800s, doctors would get ridiculed for washing their hands in between patients. Ridiculed. So here we are 100 years later, and
things.
if you don't
Ridicule.
wash your hands, then you're like disgusting, right?
Yep.
Yeah, people have been doing that for thousands of years. What kind of food would you eat during Yule?
So again, you want to focus on the earth. Traditionally, they would focus on what vegetables they could harvest or would have saved that was available this time of the year. So like root vegetables, obviously, and as we'll probably get into at some point, like I'm very into the nutrition thing. So not only eating locally and organically is important, but seasonally. So in this time, we want to be eating root vegetables anyways. But also like gamey meats and again with the spices. So anything that would be warming from the inside, curries, turmeric, cinnamon, clove,
Mm,
allspice, stuff that's traditionally used this time of year anyway, nutmeg. But there's a reason for it. So increase it. And again, nutritionally, it will help boost your immunity and hopefully we'll stay well through the dark ages of the year.
I love this whole like as the light wanes, right? I love returning more to the concept of like some version of the settlers, right? Where, somebody went out and got a deer or some rabbit, and then we had been taking care of these carrots and all this stuff, and we're making some kind of stew with the fire, and our hands are cold, and it's just this whole like experience that the more I've gotten into food and the more I've gotten into seasonal eating, like you said, that's what I want in these
Yeah.
colder times. I don't want like fresh fruit is gone now, right? Theoretically, unless it's apples or something like that. I love pumpkins, that's my favorite is pumpkin.
It's good.
Um,
Pomegranate is one of my favorite.
pomegranate. Yeah. Those are good. Because actually, this is the season for oranges.
Right. Just
It's
not, they
just
just
not
don't.
here. They just don't grow here.
Absolutely.
Mm. So I have thoughts on next year, and I don't know if it's just from influence from other people, but I feel like the next year is going to be a little bit tricky for a lot of people. Um, Not because there's just stuff left over from what we were doing. I think it's gonna, as you come rebuild and reconstruct, you come through things and it gets better, but it's not gonna be just like a wave of magic wand on the solstice and poof, your life is better, right? Do you have like a similar feeling?
Yeah, I mean that's always seems to be the way it goes. I always kind of like wish like I don't know. We get wiser as we go on. I kind of wanted that for this year. I was like, oh, this year's gonna be so much better. And I mean, yes, but also no. So I mean, you have to face your ego in this journey. You have to face your karma, especially if you want to change, like, right. So I think, and those are really hard things, like to end karmic cycles and to kill parts of our ego and detach from them,
Mm.
especially for those who have maybe not done as much shadow work up to this point or gone through their dark night of the soul. It could be more difficult before it gets easier. But for those of us who have been, like we were talking about, and how I was feeling about the end of this year, I think, the fruits of our labor might come sooner within the year.
Yeah.
We did,
I heard something like when someone's worked through a lot of their like trauma and stuff, they're at a better higher vibration. So the the things that affect everybody else aren't going to be as jagged, right? But you're going to see like, okay, that was weird, right? Like this little blip thing. Um and there's like a whole variation on that, but you'll have this, you're humming along, even if you've come from here and you'll be humming along and be like, wow, that was a little bit of off kilter, but you're not gonna, your whole life's not gonna get just knocked off its axis, right?
whole earth, whole human race societal level. I think that it's going to become even more apparent how many people have actually raised their frequency.
Mhm.
Uh, I just think things are becoming more transparent and obvious on an energetic sort of level. And also, I mean, the universe kind of forces us along in a way, right? So I don't think it's going to be completely smooth sailing. I think some very interesting things will be happening around us, but it'll be harder for some of us than others for sure.
What did you said something about timelines having split.
Yeah. So I I think about the time that COVID hit here in the United States, there was a timeline split. I can see at least three of them. Of course, there can always be more. And in a separate episode, we can go more into timelines and timelines and such. However, I do think that there is definitely a lower timeline than the one that we are on. That if a smaller part of the collective was on the higher frequency and working like we are, it would have been much worse. It would have been like what we responded to that didn't really happen, like a whole outbreak situation, to reference my 90s upbringing. But we're not on that one. I also think there is at least one higher timeline that we did not quite make it to, where it would have been more of a blip and we would already be in the ascended new earth. And we are somewhere in the middle, is where we actually have landed and are now broadcasting from.
Mhm.
So that being said, we can shift again. And I think that's like the goal, right? Like we want to ascend, we want to be on the ultimate abundant new earth. Again, to reference my 90s upbringing, I like to think of it as like the Great Valley timeline, you know, because I think that earth was created to be abundant, for all the beautiful things that we imagine would be how we would ultimately like things to be is possible. And we are co-creators. So I think that's why we're here doing this, because we want to find other people on the journey trying to live out their spiritual gifts and purpose in this greater purpose for all of humanity and the planet, right?
And the more people who heal, the more they raise their vibration, the better off we all are. Yeah, definitely. That's why we're doing any of this. Like,
Yeah.
why else would we talk about what seems to be crazy talk? Put it out for the whole world to see.
Yeah.
Because it might be something that somebody needs to see, and you want to make sure that, you know, people are able to get the access to what they need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also to know you're not alone and not crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that's actually more common than we realize is there are some people where they're like, I see weird things or I hear weird things, but I just pretend like it doesn't happen. And some people don't even dream that they don't think that's a problem.
Yeah.
Some people it's they have really vivid, almost like prophetic dreams, and that's not necessarily a problem, but that's not fake either. That's definitely real, you know. So um yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Like, I mean, I am the ultimate skeptic. I always am checking myself, one of my favorite most utilized human teachers has degrees in psychology, sociology, etc. And when I ask her, I'm crazy, she says, well, if you're crazy, then there's a whole lot of us who are crazy in the exact same way. I'm pretty sure that contradicts the definition of crazy.
Awesome. That's good. That's good news. I always feel like I need to go get a degree in psychology to validate myself, and then I go, stop, Jay. This is real, whether you have a degree in psychology or not.
Let numbers behind your name do not impress the divine.
No. True. Well, good. Is there anything that you feel like needs to come through you at this moment?
Don't give up.
Mm.
Like, I mean, don't give up. And the solstice is not that far away. And I think that's why that date was given to me, because it reminds me of this story my mom told me once of this marathon runner that got to running marathons just by telling himself he would keep running to the next tree or telephone pole. Right. So if you need that shorter flag post to keep going because it feels like forever, I get it. And giving up is not going to make it any more pleasant for anyone. So just don't.
Don't give up. I like that. Don't give up. Yeah, there's a lot that people could be giving up on right now.
Yeah. Everyone.
What does that even look like?
Sometimes it feels like you're stuck, and that's totally normal. And you're not actually. Like, even if you're doing the minimum, like getting out of bed and feeding your children, and you think that's all you're doing for the day, or you pray one time or meditate for like 1 minute, you're moving forward. Like, I always like to say, even baby steps get you to the top of the staircase.
Always, when I was going through like some of the hardest times of my life, I would feel it like I was you know that movie Up?
Yeah.
Where Russell is just exhausted and they're just walking through the woods and he's like face down in the dirt, but the house is like pulling him forward. That's how I felt at points. Because there is no like if that visual is like, okay, clearly you're not going anywhere, right? But he is moving forward. He's just not very fast. And that part. I was like, oh, there's a point that you get to where you're on the path and you can't turn around. You can't go somewhere else. It's you're going, everything's going to redirect you to where you're supposed to be.
And the only thing your free will is going to do if you use it against moving forward is actually stuck.
Mhm. Yeah. Good. That's good. I am like way into this now. Wow. Like I can feel the things, right?
Why describe feeling the things in words, Jan? What's it like?
Ugh, like there's a like when you get into a bath and you just feel the warm water all around you. It's like that when when the energy is really flowing, that's what it's like, is there's just a lot of like warm, like you're just in the comfy energy.
No, that's interesting because the way it feels for me right now is like when you're in a shower because it like, most often trickles down from my crown for me. So, but the water
Mm,
and warm is very legit
mm-hmm.
and the
Warm
tingling.
water. That's funny. Warm water.
This is how we feel when we channel.
That's a good point. I don't think people realize that. Yeah. So some of the things that happen when you channel is like these feelings, but also like we talked about this last night, like you'll yawn, there'll be burping, there's sneezing or coughing because your nervous system is being activated and you're just like, okay, this is part of the clearing process.
I get the itching sometimes,
Itching.
but
Yeah.
feel free to share in the comments how it happens for them because I think
Yeah.
that me, I didn't realize I was channeling until I'd already been doing it for a long time because I thought it was supposed to look like something specific.
Oh, I thought it was supposed to look like that scene in Harry Potter where she's like,
Oh, very similar. Seriously. Oh, yeah, no, it's not that dramatic. I mean, maybe it can be, but not necessarily.
I like channel all the time. I channel at the grocery store because then I don't have to remember like what do I have to buy. I just like it like pops a picture in my mind of like, oh, you're out of this. And it's not on my list. And I'm like, well, okay, I need to buy this.
Yeah.
Right? Like I channel all the time. Like when I'm uh on a conversation with somebody at work and I go, okay, what else do we have going on? And then spirit or whoever, divine goes, what about this? And I'm like, what about this? And they're like, oh my gosh, we didn't think about that.
Right.
Not really me, but it's
Right.
me.
Yeah. So if I'm back to the solstice, anyone is not sure what they want to do to celebrate it or bring in the energies, maybe just do that. Just ask.
Mm,
Listen to the response you get and don't think you're crazy or shut it off. And then say thank you and you'll get it a lot more. That was what
mm,
really helped me open my intuition and my channels was listening, not shutting it off, and then saying thank you.
yeah. And if anyone else has great ideas that come through them for celebrating the solstice, just put it in the comment section so that everybody can see them and get great ideas from each other too. That would be good.
I love that.
Cool. Yeah, don't give up. I like that. I love it. Well, if you want to connect with either of us right now, we have an unnamed show if this is being posted under Irreverent Shaman, but who knows, that'll probably change because I can't change that name and that's my old branding, so whatever. And
Here's your example of getting started before you're ready.
yes, go ugly early. Here we are. Um, if you want to get in contact with us, honestly, just comment and we'll find a way for you. If you want to work with Jane, she can help you. What kind of things do you help people with?
I'm an intuitive, so we can do that. I do intuitive guided meditations as well. I am certified in holistic and integrative nutrition and health coaching. So we can talk about anything with that. I do read tarot, and I am Reiki 2 certified, so I can practice Reiki, and I am currently in a shamanic energy and Reiki masters program. So I can also help with any type of energy work.
Very good. Yeah, and you can find me at janhealing.com. I have crystals. I do personalized energy work. It's a lot like in the body stuff. So right now I'm working on a joint healing program, which is very fun. And then I'm also working, I do one-on-one sessions. It's not, I'm certified in Reiki, but it's not Reiki. It's more of an intuitive clearing method that I was mostly given through spirit and through other obviously it's all through spirit, right? But it's like I was led down a specific path to go, I do this on myself, I do this on my kids, I can do it for other people. So come up with a name for it because people tend to respond to named things. Well, great. It's been wonderful having a chat, and I'm sure we will be talking soon. Everybody have a great day.
Good day.